You have carried this year with you in every fiber of your being, every disappointment, every unexpected blow, every conversation that left you diminished, every moment when the world seemed to prove that you were less than you hoped to be. You have carried it all. The weight of it sits in your chest, colors your expectations, and quietly whispers what next year will bring. But I tell you now, and I mean this with absolute conviction, you do not have to carry it forward, not one single impression, not one limiting fact. Tonight you can rewrite the whole year, not symbolically, not as a mental exercise in positive thinking, but truly in consciousness, where all things are formed and from which all outer facts proceed. You can go back through the entire year, month by month, week by week, moment by moment, and you can revise it. You can take what was and reform it into what should have been. And in doing so, you do not merely change your memory. You change the very foundation upon which your future is being built. Because consciousness is the only reality, and what you impress upon it now becomes the substance of what unfolds tomorrow. This is not fantasy. This is not denial. This is the most practical and powerful use of imagination that exists. Neville Goddard called it revision, and he said that if he had to choose only one technique to teach, it would be this. Because revision does not simply change how you feel about the past. It changes the past itself at the level where the past still lives, which is in you, in your consciousness, in the assumptions you now carry about who you are and what the world is. And I tell you, the world is yourself pushed out. It has no choice but to conform to what you are convinced is true. So if you are walking into next year still convinced by the evidence of this year, still shaped by its blows and failures, still carrying the identity it seemed to assign you, then next year will be nothing but a continuation. But if you revise this year, if you go back and rewrite the record in imagination, you will walk into next year as a different person, as the person to whom those things never happened, as the person to whom those things never happened, as the person for whom this year was everything you wanted it to be, and the world, your world, will have no choice but to reflect that. Tonight you are going to learn how to do this, not in theory, not as a concept to admire, but as a practice, a single sitting, the sacred act of imaginative rewriting that will clear the accumulated weight of this year and set the tone for everything that follows. You're going to take back your power from every moment that seemed to take it from you, and you are going to do it the only way anything has ever truly been done, which is in imagination, in the silent inner world where you are not a victim of circumstances, but the creator of them. Welcome. If this is your first time here, you have arrived at a place where we do not talk about manifestation as though it were a gamble or a hope. We speak of it as law, as principle, as the mechanics of consciousness itself. This channel is dedicated entirely to the teachings of Neville Goddard, a man who did not theorize about imagination, but lived from it, tested it, proved it, and spent decades showing others how to do the same. In this episode, we are going to explore one of the most transformative practices Neville ever taught, the practice of revising not just a single day, not just a single event, but an entire year. You are going to learn how to sit down tonight, go back through everything that happened, and rewrite it in imagination so that it conforms to what you wish had happened. And you are going to understand why this is not merely therapeutic, but causative, why it does not just make you feel better, but actually alters the foundation of your future. By the end of this episode, you will have a clear step-by-step method for doing this work tonight, and you will understand the principle that makes it effective. So let us begin. Let me start with something Neville said again and again. The past does not exist. You think it does. You think it is. You think it is fixed, solid, recorded somewhere in the fabric of reality. But it is not. The past exists only in your memory, and your memory exists only in your consciousness now, right now. The past is not behind you in time. It is in you, as a collection of impressions, as a set of conclusions you drew, as an identity you formed in response to what seemed to happen. And because consciousness is the only reality, because your imagination is the creative power of the universe itself, you can go back into that memory and change it, not by pretending it did not happen, but by imagining it differently, by replying to the memory and change it, not by pretending it did not happen, but by imagining it differently, by replying the new evidence. And when you do that, when you revise the past in imagination, you do not simply change how you feel about it. You change the influence it has over you. You change the assumptions it created. You change the person you became because of it. And in changing that, you change your future. This is not a psychological trick. This is not about feeling better so you can cope with what happened. This is about recognizing that what happened only has the power you give it by continuing to accept it as true in your imagination. You see, every time you remember something, you are recreating it. You are imagining it again. And if you imagine it the way it seemed to occur, you reinforce it. You deepen the groove. You consent to it. You say, yes, this is what I am. This is what the world is. This is what is true. And so it continues to be true for you. It continues to shape your expectations, your conversations, your sense of what is possible. But if you revise it, if you go back and imagine it as you wish it had been, you stop consenting. You withdraw your power from that old image and you give it to a new one. And I tell you, your imagination does not care which image is older or which one the world calls fact. It only cares about which one you are loyal to now, which one you dwell in, which one you feel. Neville tells a story about a woman who came to him devastated because her daughter had married a man she despised. The marriage had already happened. It was a fact. The world would say there is nothing to be done but accept it. But Neville told her to go home and revise it. He told her to imagine, night after night, that her daughter had married a different man, a wonderful man, the kind of man she would have chosen. He told her to replay the wedding in her mind, to feel the joy of it, to see her daughter happy with this other man, to live in that revision until it felt more real than the fact. And she did, and within months the marriage dissolved as though it had never been, and her daughter met and married dissolved as though it had never been, and her daughter met and married a man who was exactly as she had imagined. The outer world rearranged itself to conform to the revision, because consciousness is the only reality. The past is not fixed. It is held in place only by your continued assumption that it is true. Revise the assumption, and the so-called fact loses its power. Now let us apply this not to one event, but to an entire year. Think about what has happened to you over the past 12 months. Think about the moments that hurt, the rejections, the failures, the quotements, the humiliations, the losses, the disappointments, the moments when you felt small, powerless, unworthy. You have carried all of that. It is in you now, shaping how you see yourself, shaping what you expect, shaping the very vibration, the very state of consciousness from which you are creating tomorrow. And if you do nothing, if you simply let the year end and the new one begin, you will carry all of that into the new year. You will be the person to whom those things happened. And the world, which is yourself pushed out, will continue to reflect that person back to you. But you do not have to do that. You can sit down tonight or tomorrow night or whenever you have a quiet hour to yourself, and you can go back through the entire year and revise it. You can take every negative impression, every painful memory, every moment that diminished you, and you can rewrite it. Not by denying that it seemed to happen, but by imagining that it happened differently, by seeing it, feeling it, and accepting as true in your imagination the version of events that would have made you feel powerful, loved, successful, whole. And in doing so, you do not merely release the past. You rewrite the foundation of your present identity. You become the person to whom those beautiful things happened. And from that identity, that state, that conviction, you create a completely different future. I have done this myself. I have sat down at the end of a difficult year and gone back through every painful moment, every rejection, every conversation that left me feeling less than I am, and I have revised it. I have imagined the conversation going differently. I have imagined the letter arriving with different news. I have imagined the letter arriving with different news. I have imagined the opportunity being offered instead of withdrawn. I have imagined myself calm and confident and unmoved where I was anxious and diminished. And I did not do this to make myself feel better, though it did. I did it because I knew that those memories, those impressions, were actively shaping my future. They were the soil in which next year was growing, and I refused to let them stand. I refused to walk into a new year carrying the weight of the old one. And I tell you, when you do this work sincerely, when you revise with feeling and conviction, The new year does not unfold as a continuation of the old one. It unfolds as a completely new creation. Because you are new. The past you are carrying is new. The assumptions you hold are new. And the world has no choice but to conform. Now you might ask, how is this different from just thinking positively about the past? How is this different from trying to reframe things or look on the bright side? And I tell you, it is entirely different. Positive thinking is a mental overlay. It is trying to feel better about what you still believe is true. Revision is a replacement. It is not about feeling better about what happened. It is about impressing upon your consciousness a completely different set of facts. It is about dwelling in the revised version until it feels real, until it becomes your memory, until you are the person to whom that revised event occurred. And when you do that, you do not simply change your mood. You change your identity. You change your identity. You change your identity. You change the assumptions from which you are creating. And that changes everything. Neville was once asked whether revision changes the past for everyone or just for you. And he said, it changes the past for you. And that is all that matters, because your world is you. The people in your world, the circumstances in your world, the opportunities and obstacles in your world, all of it is yourself pushed out. So when you change in consciousness, when you revise the past and become a different person, your world must and will reflect that. It has no choice. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is shadow. So think about this year. Think about the moments that still sting when you recall them. The times you felt rejected, overlooked, betrayed, diminished. The times when the world seemed to say, you are not enough, you cannot have it, you are not worthy. Those moments are still alive in you. They are still shaping you, and they will continue to shape you until you go back and rewrite them, until you take your power back from them by refusing to consent to their version of reality. And that is what we are going to do. We are going to revise this entire year in one sitting, and we are going to walk into the new year as though this year gave us everything we wanted, as though we were loved, celebrated, successful, fulfilled, powerful. Because in consciousness, we can be, and in consciousness, we are. And from that state, that is what we will experience. Now let us talk about how this practice works on a deeper level. Why it is not merely emotional release or mental hygiene, but actual restructuring of the creative foundation of your life. Neville taught that your future is not determined by what happens to you. It is determined by the state of consciousness you occupy. And your state of consciousness is nothing more than the sum total of your assumptions about yourself and your world. If you assume you are unwanted, the world will be cold. If you assume you are powerful, the world will yield. If you assume this year proved you're a failure, next year will offer you more evidence of failure. But if you revise this year so that in your memory, in your imagination, in your conviction, this year proved you are chosen, successful and loved, then next year must reflect that. Because the world is yourself pushed out, it does not have its own agenda. It does not have its own facts. It simply reflects what you are convinced is true. This is why Neville said that the most important thing you can do is control your inner conversations. Because your inner conversations are the means by which you sustain your assumptions. When you replay a painful memory, when you rehash an argument, when you remind yourself of how things went wrong, you are not passively remembering. You are actively imagining, you are recreating that event in consciousness, and you are saying yes to it. You are giving it your consent. You are feeding it your attention, your feeling, your creative power, and so it remains alive, it remains active, it continues to shape you. But when you revise, when you go back and imagine the event differently, you withdraw that consent. You stop feeding the old image. You give your attention, your feeling, your creative power to a new image. And the old one begins to fade. It loses its grip on you. It stops shaping your expectations. It stops defining who you are. And the new image takes its place. And from that new image, that new memory, that new set of assumptions, you create a new future. Let me give you an example. Suppose you had a conversation this year with someone you love, and it went badly. Maybe you argued. Maybe they said something cruel. Maybe you said something you regret. Maybe the conversation ended in silence, in turf. And now every time you think of that person, you remember that conversation. You feel the hurt. You replay what they said, what you said, how it felt, and that memory becomes the foundation of your relationship with them. It becomes the lens through which you see them, and they see you. It becomes the assumption you hold about what is true between you. And so the relationship continues to reflect that assumption. It continues to be distant, cold, unresolved. But what if you revise it? What if tonight you go back in imagination to that conversation and you replay it differently? You see yourself calm, loving, confident. You hear them speak with kindness. You feel the warmth between you. You imagine the conversation ending in laughter, in understanding, in closeness. You dwell in that revision until it feels real, until it feels trill, until it feels true, until it feels true, until it becomes your memory of what happened. And then, what happens? I tell you, the relationship begins to change, not because you told them about your revision, not because you forced anything in the outer world, but because you changed in consciousness. You stopped being the person to whom that painful conversation happened. You became the person to whom the loving conversation happened. And the world, which is yourself pushed out, must conform to that. The next time you see them, they will be different, or you will be different, or both, because the assumption has changed. The foundation has changed. The past has changed. This is not magic. This is not magic. This is not a magic. This is not. Magic's this is the only reality. Your imagination is the creative power, and the past is not a fixed external fact. It is a living assumption in you, and you can change it. Now, when you apply this principle to an entire year, you are doing something extraordinarily powerful. You are not just revising one event. You are revising the entire narrative of who you have been and what this year has meant. You are wiping the slate clean. You are clearing the accumulated impressions, the layered assumptions, the compounded evidence that the world has been giving you about who you are and what is possible. And you are replacing all of that with a new set of facts, a new story, a new identity. And from that new identity, you step into the new year, not as the person the old year made you, but as the person the revised year made you, the person who was loved, celebrated, chosen, successful, the person to whom everything worked out, the person who is confident, expectant, and unshaken. Neville once said, "If you will faithfully revise each day, you will find that within a month your entire world has changed." Now imagine what happens if you revise an entire year in one sitting. You are not just changing one day's worth of assumptions. You are changing 12 months of them. You are collapsing the entire weight of the year into a single act of imaginative rewriting, and the effect is immediate and cumulative. You stand up from that revision as a different person. You feel different. You expect different things. You move through the world differently. And the world, which has no choice but to reflect your consciousness, begins immediately to show you evidence of that change. I tell you, this is the most potent practice you can engage in as one year ends and another begins. Because the turning of the year is not just a date on a calendar. It is a psychological threshold. It is a moment when you are naturally reflective, naturally evaluative, naturally asking who you have been and who you will be. And if you do that evaluation from the old facts, from the unrevised memories, you will carry the old identity forward. But if you do it from the revised facts, from the new memories, you will step through that threshold as someone entirely new. And the year ahead will unfold not as a continuation of what has been, but as the outpicturing of what you have now assumed is true. So the question is not whether revision works. Neville proved that it works, and thousands of people since have proven it. The question is whether you will do it, whether you will sit down, take the time, go back through this year, and rewrite it. Whether you will refuse to carry forward the pain, the rejection, the failure, whether you will dare to assume that this year in consciousness was everything you wanted it to be. And I tell you, if you will dare to assume it, if you will revise with feeling and conviction and persistence, you will walk into next year as a different being, and your world will have no choice but to show you that it is so. Now let us move from the why to the how. Let us talk about exactly how you are going to revise your entire year in one sitting. This is not something you do casually while scrolling your phone or sitting in a noisy room. This is sacred work. This is the reshaping of your consciousness. So you must approach it with intention, with focus, with reverence. Set aside an evening or an afternoon or a morning when you will not be disturbed. Turn off your phone. Close the door. Light a candle if that helps you settle. Sit somewhere comfortable where you can be still for an hour or more. This is not a rushed exercise. This is a deep, deliberate act of creation. Begin by closing your eyes and taking a few slow breaths. Let your body relax. Let your mind settle. You are not trying to force anything. You are simply becoming still, becoming receptive, becoming inwardly focused. And then, gently, you are going to bring to mind the very beginning of this year, January. The first weeks, what was happening in your life? What were you feeling? What were you hoping for? Do not judge it. Do not resist it. Just let the memories come. And as the memories come, notice which ones carry a negative charge, which ones still make you feel small or sad or angry or afraid. Those are the ones you are going to revise. So take the first one. Let us say it was a conversation in early January that left you feeling dismissed. Maybe someone ignored your idea. Maybe someone spoke to you harshly. Maybe you felt invisible. Take that memory, and now gently you are going to replay it in imagination. But this time you are going to imagine it going the way you wish it had gone. You see yourself confident, articulate, respected. You hear the other person responding warmly, agreeing with you, valuing your input. You feel the satisfaction of being seen, of being heard, of being honored. Dwell in that feeling. Let it become real. Let the revised scene play out in detail. See it, hear it, feel it, and when it feels complete, when it feels true, let it go and move on. Now take the next memory. Maybe it was something in February, a rejection, a disappointment, a failure, something that made you feel like you were not enough. Take that memory and revise it. Imagine the acceptance instead of the rejection. Imagine the success instead of the rejection. Imagine the success instead of the failure. Imagine yourself calm and confident in knowing your worth. See it vividly. Feel it deeply. Let the revised version replace the old one in your imagination. Do not rush. Do not skim over it. This is the work. This is where the change happens. In the feeling, in the conviction, in the willingness to dwell in the revised scene until it feels as real as the original, and then move forward through the year, month by month, memory by memory. Every argument, revise it into harmony. Every rejection, revise it into eponymity. Every rejection, revise it into acceptance. Every failure, revise it into acceptance. Every failure, revise it into confidence. Every moment of fear, revise it into confidence. Every moment of loneliness, revise it into connection. You are not making a list. You are not analyzing. You are simply letting the year unfold in your mind. And wherever there is a negative impression, you are replacing it with the impression you wish had been made. You are rewriting the year as it should have been, as it would have been if you had been living from your true power, your true identity, your true worth. This will take time. It may take an hour. It may take 2. Do not rush it. The depth of the revision matters far more than the speed. Neville said that the secret of imagining is to lose yourself in the scene, to become so absorbed that for a moment you forget you are imagining and it feels utterly real. That is the state you are aiming for. That is where the revision becomes effective, not in the mere act of thinking different thoughts, but in the state of feeling, of conviction, of imaginative reality. As you move through the year, you may notice patterns, you may notice the same kind of event happening again, the same kind of rejection, the same kind of disappointment. This is not a coincidence. This is your consciousness repeating itself. This is an assumption playing out over and over, and as you revise each instance, you are not just changing those individual events. You are dissolving the assumption itself. You are pulling up the root. You are stopping the pattern at its source, which is in you, in the state you have been occupying, in the identity you have been holding. And when you reach the end of the year, when you have revised every major negative impression, you are going to do something else. You are going to imagine the year as a whole. You are going to see yourself looking back on this year, and you are going to feel grateful. You are going to feel that this was a wonderful year, a year of growth, of love, of success, of joy. You are going to let yourself feel, deeply and sincerely, that this year gave you everything you needed, everything you wanted, everything you are. And you are going to let that feeling settle into you. You are going to let it become your truth, not as a hope for next year, but as the reality of this year, revised and redeemed in consciousness. And then, when you feel complete, when you feel that the work is done, you are going to open your eyes, and you are going to notice that you feel different, lighter, freer, more yourself, because you have taken back your power from every moment that seemed to take it from you. You have stopped consenting to the old story. You have rewritten the record. And the person you are now is not the person who sat down to do this work. You are the person to whom the revised year happened. And that person walks into next year with entirely different expectations, entirely different assumptions, entirely different creative power. Neville said, try it. Do not take my word for it. Do not debate it. Try it. And I say the same to you. Do this work tonight. Go back through this year and revise it. Rewrite every painful moment. Replace every negative impression. And then watch what happens. Watch how you feel tomorrow. Watch what opportunities appear. Watch how people respond to you. Watch how the world begins to conform to the new you, the revised you, the you who carries a year of success and love and power in your consciousness, instead of a year of failure and hurt and fear. This is not a metaphor. This is not a nice idea. This is the most practical, most effective use of your imagination. Because your imagination is not a luxury. It is not entertainment. It is the creative power of your life. And the past is not a fixed fact. It is a living assumption. And you can change it right now, tonight, in one sitting. You can revise your entire year. And in doing so, you can step into the next year as a completely new person. A person to whom the world says yes. A person who expects good things. A person who knows their worth. A person who expects good things. A person who has their worth. A person who is, in consciousness, already everything they desire to be. Now let us step back and see this work in its larger context. Why does revision matter beyond the immediate relief it brings, beyond even the practical results it produces? It matters because it reveals to you who you truly are. You are not a passive victim of circumstances. You are not at the mercy of a world that happens to you. You are the operant power in your life. You are the one imagining. You are the one assuming. You are the one creating. And when you revise the past, you prove to yourself that the past has no power except the power you give it by continuing to accept it as true. This is a radical shift in identity. Most people live as though the past has made them who they are. They say, I am this way because of what happened to me. I cannot change because of what I have been through. I am limited because of what the world has shown me. And in saying that, they give their power away. They make the past their God. They bow to it. They let it dictate their future. But Neville teaches the opposite. He teaches that you are not made by the past. You are made by your imagination. You are made by what you assume is true now. And the past is only as powerful as your current consent to it. When you revise the past, you withdraw that consent to it. When you revise the past, you withdraw that consent. You remember that you are not a creature of circumstances, but a creator of them. And this is not arrogance. This is truth. You are not a small, separate self trying to manipulate a vast, indifferent universe. You are the consciousness in which the universe appears. You are the I am. You are God awake in a human form, and your imagination is the creative word by which all things are made. And when you know this, truly know this, you stop asking the world for permission. You stop waiting for circumstances to change. You go into your imagination. You assume the state you desire, and you let the world conform, because it must, because it has no choice, because consciousness is the only reality. Neville often quoted scripture, not as religious doctrine, but as psychological truth. He loved the verse, I am the Lord, I change not. And he said that the I am in you is the Lord. It is the creative power. It is God. And it does not change based on circumstances. It does not react to the world. It creates the world. And when you revise the past, you are acting from that I am. You are not reacting to what seemed to happen. You are deciding what is true. You are speaking your word into the formless substance of consciousness, and you are watching it take shape. This is why the practice of revision is not just a technique. It is a spiritual discipline. It is a way of remembering who you are. Every time you revise, you are practicing the truth that you are not subject to the world. The world is subject to you. You are not defined by facts. Facts are defined by your assumptions. You are not shaped by the past. The past is shaped by your imagination. And the more you practice this, the more you live from this understanding, the more your entire life becomes an act of conscious creation. You stop being tossed about by circumstances. You stop being surprised by outcomes. You become the stable, unmoved center from which all things proceed. And this is what Neville meant when he said that the purpose of life is not to get things, but to discover who you are. The things come, yes. The revised year leads to a better next year. The healed relationships, the new opportunities, the abundance, the love, all of it comes. But what matters more is that you awaken to your own power. You awaken to the truth that you are not a man seeking God. You are God seeking expression as man. And when you know that, when you live from that, everything changes. Not because you are trying to change things, but because you have changed. And the world, which is yourself pushed out, must change with you. So as you sit down tonight to revise this year, do it not only to clear the negative impressions, though that alone is worth it. Do it to remember who you are. Do it to reclaim your power. Do it to step into the truth that you are the operant power in your life, that your imagination is the creative force of the universe, and that nothing, not the past, not the present, not the opinions of others, not the so-called facts, nothing has power over you unless you give it that power in your imagination. And you do not have to give it. You can take it back, right now, tonight. In one sitting, you can revise your entire year. You can become new. And from that newness, you can create a future that reflects not what the world said you are, but what you know you are. So here is what I want you to carry with you as you close this episode and move into your day or your evening. You do not have to carry this year forward. You do not have to let its disappointments, its rejections, its failures define you. You do not have to walk into next year as the person this year seemed to make you. Because that person is not who you are. That person is only who you became by consenting to the images the world presented to you, and you can withdraw that consent. You can go back tonight and you can rewrite the whole year. You can imagine it as you wish it had been. You can imagine it as you wish it had been. You can dwell in that revision until it feels real, until it becomes your truth, until you are the person to whom that revised year happened. And from that identity, that state, that conviction, you will step into next year as someone entirely new, someone who expects good things, someone who knows their worth, someone who is already in consciousness everything they desire to be. This is not a distant hope. This is not a theory. This is something you can do tonight. In one sitting, you can take back your power. You can rewrite the story. You can become new. And the world will conform. It has no choice, because the world is yourself pushed out. And you are the operant power. You are the imagination that creates all things. You are the I am. So go now. Set aside the time. Do the work. Revise your year. And then step into the next one, knowing that you are not who you were. You are not bound by what seemed to be. And you are free, right now, to imagine and to become anything you desire. I tell you, it is done. The moment you assume it, it is done. So assume it. Tonight. Revise the whole year tonight. And walk into tomorrow as the person you have always been meant to be.